Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am one of your hosts, Ashley. This is our other co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have a fun fact for you, Ashley.
Okay.
Did you know that if the season ended right now, the Eagles would be the number one seed in the NFC?
Wow, congratulations.
So, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say Super Bowl, but, I'm just saying.
You did say it on our last show, but...
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I guess I literally did. Yeah, I forgot about that.
You did.
Oh, well.
But it's okay. We both can come on here happy this week, which doesn't happen too often, especially because my team is the Giants. But we both come on here very happy with how this week turned out for us specifically.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Sunday Night Football just made it all the better.
Yeah, we will talk about that
we'll
later. So everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us. We're going to hop into our in-season content, which always starts out with our injury report. So we're going to go through that. It is pretty lengthy, but there are a couple people who are already on IR. Duncan, do you want to remind us the terms of IR and everything?
Yeah, so IR, now that the season has started, means if you're put on it, you have to miss a minimum of 4 games, not 4 weeks, 4 games. Each team has 8 designations of players to return per season, and a player can be put on IR and return from IR twice, but the third time he would be, permanently on IR for the rest of the season. So, yeah, pretty simple. The 4 games is less than it's been in the past, so that's new.
Perfect. And I think the returning on the third time is new. I don't know if it was just me misremembering, but I could have sworn last year.
Well, you're returning on the second time.
No, I meant like going on IR for the third time. Is it? I thought last year it was when you got on the second time, but it could just be my brain.
Well, NFL.com had an article with incorrect information. So honestly, at this point, I'm not even sure if what I said is right, but I'm pretty sure it is. It's fine.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Well, okay. There we go. It signed me out. All right. So let's jump into our injury updates. Not even updates. Our first injury report of the week. We break it down by position here. So Patriots quarterback Mac Jones suffered a back injury against the Dolphins. He ended up having x-rays and was later revealed to be back spasms, and he should be good to go for next week. Cowboys' Dak Prescott injured his thumb against the Buccaneers. He ended up needing to have surgery. That all happened very fast. It seemed to be, from the reports I read, was an extra articular fracture of the thumb, which means the break doesn't go to the joint. It just stays in like those finger bones. He's expected to be sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks. The timeline seems to have shortened post-surgery. The Cowboys are not going to put him on IR because there is some hopes that he can make a speedy recovery and come back in about 4 weeks. Dallas does have a week 9 bye, though, which fits into that 6 to 8 week timeline. Cooper Rush is going to be the quarterback in the meantime. Mike McCarthy said that he has had many discussions with Jerry and Stephen Jones about adding a third quarterback to the roster, and those discussions will be ongoing. And just as a reminder, Dak Prescott missed 11 games in 2020, 1 game in 2021, and it's now going to be around 4 to 8 as of right now in 2022.
Yeah, Dallas, they're stupid. Just put him on IR. Like, he's not. It's a similar-ish injury to what Russ had last year, Russell Wilson. He came back. He didn't look the same. It's on his throwing hand. Believe it or not, he needs that to throw the ball. It's just really stupid. It's irresponsible. I believe Jerry Jones went on a talk show or like a radio show or whatever and was like, no, we're not even going to put him on IR. He could be back. We're thinking he could be back before those. And it's like, no, you're an idiot. You're stupid. If he comes back that soon, you're stupid. Like, he shouldn't be on the field, and it's not going to be good, especially behind that offensive line. All you're going to do is make it worse. So they're a bunch of morons, but surprise, surprise.
Yeah, so that is how he did it. I believe it was a morning radio show is how he went about talking about that. Onto running backs. 49ers running back Elijah Mitchell suffered a knee injury in the game against the Bears. He will miss approximately 8 weeks and has already been placed on IR, which is a pretty big blow for them considering how big of a role he had in the offense last year, and a pretty big blow for all fantasy managers. Do you have Eli anywhere?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Tough. I really don't think I do. Maybe in one of my dynasty leagues, but I don't have much of him.
I have him mostly in dynasty because I liked him as a later round pick his rookie season, like in the rookie draft. So
yeah.
whatever.
Steelers running back Najee Harris suffered a foot injury. It was a Liz Frank sprain, but he is expected to play. He says he's doing well. There is some concern this could be like a recurring thing, but as of right now, he says he's good to go, and this was just a one-time thing. And Lions running back DeAndre Swift did not practice today with an injury, which was reported as quote-unquote something to keep an eye on. For wide receivers, Alan Lazard did not play this week. Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen left the game early due to a hamstring injury and is expected to miss a few weeks. He has been officially ruled out for the week. Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins is in concussion protocol. From what I read, it seems like the soonest he will be able to return to practice is Thursday, which slims down the likelihood of him being able to play this coming week. And Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin left the game early with a hamstring injury that is not considered serious, but it is something to note, especially since he was, I don't want to say rushed because
he came back really quickly.
He did come back very quickly from a fairly serious injury. So it's something to just keep an eye on. Maybe his body just wasn't ready for football yet. Not even just that one injury, but just his body as a whole. For tight ends, the 49ers tight end George Kittle did not play this week with a groin injury and remained out of practice today. And the Chargers tight end Donald Parham has been ruled out for this week with a hamstring injury. Next, I know.
One day.
I know. It will be his turn one day. For the next segment, we just kind of rope in all defense, offensive line, and special teams. Seahawks safety Jamal Adams suffered a knee injury in the Monday Night Football game. There has been really very slim actual news about it, but the tone seems to be pretty serious and looking like it'll require surgery. From what I was able to see, I saw one report that it's possible that it's a torn quad muscle, but there's really not too much news on that, except for the fact that everybody is like, this is serious.
How do you think Seattle feels about their investment in Jamal Adams? Because this is now the third season in a row where he will most likely, assuming he miss a game in every single season. He played 12 games, and we'll see about the season. But
yeah, and not even that, he hasn't been as fantastic as the price they paid to get him. So I don't think it's the best investment. This one came out earlier today. Broncos safety Justin Simmons will miss, quote, some time after sustaining a thigh injury in the second half of the game this week. Beat reporters are hearing possible short-term IR. Big one here, Steelers. TJ Watt tore his pectoral muscle. It seems the worst-case scenario has been avoided for him. He did seek out several options after the game. Watt will not end up having surgery on the torn muscle, and it seems that is because that the tear did not affect the tendon and only specifically affected the muscle. Mike Tomlin has officially ruled him out for this week, but nothing further. He hasn't been officially placed on IR to my knowledge yet. He's expected to miss about 6 weeks.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if he doesn't end up on IR, but it's still a lot better than the entire season.
Yeah. Yep. And if you watch the post game, when he was walking off the field and everything, you could see him mouth about I think I tore it, something like that. So there was huge fear that he would be out for the season. So 6 weeks would be, 6 weeks sounds like a long time, but to have him back at all this season would be really good for them. Pretty crazy story here. Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker sustained an ankle injury. He had rolled his ankle during the first quarter of the game. He has been ruled out for this coming week. Safety Justin Reed came in as the emergency kicker. He did have some kick duties in college and high school. He ended up doing really well, and at one point he did a kickoff and it went through the uprights, which was wild. And you can see he was actually mic'd up for the whole thing. So they had incredible. That on NFL, I think on the official NFL page is where I watched it this morning, and it was really funny to watch. And Patrick Mahomes was like, oh my God, that just went through the upright. It was really funny. Also, side note, I think that should count for something.
Oh, I agree. That's
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, try it out in the XFL or something
Yeah, just see how it goes. I think it would be so fun. Anyway, it doesn't seem like he's going to get much kicking. Justin Reed is going to get much kicking duties this week as Chiefs added former Jets kicker Matt Amendola to the roster. Chiefs also lost Trent McDuffie, who suffered a hamstring injury and has been placed on IR. Panthers punt returner Andre Roberts placed on IR with a PCL sprain. The Eagles edge rusher Derek Barnett tore his ACL and will miss the rest of the season. How big is that for your Eagles?
It's not. He was the fifth or fourth defensive end. I mean, he's been a very disappointing first round pick. So whatever.
Okay.
I mean, it sucks for him. Obviously, I don't want him to get injured, but
yep. Giants cornerback Aaron Robinson had his appendix removed and will miss this week. It's only expected to be this week, but that's a pretty big blow for the Giants. Rams center Brian Allen will miss 2 to 4 weeks following a surgical procedure on his knee. Coleman Shelton will move to center, and Tremaine Ingram will fill in for Shelton at right guard.
I think that's huge. The Rams' offensive line was already having issues, and the run game was not good. So that could be really big.
That was probably one of my biggest takeaways from that game is that offensive line. And they lost Wentworth, who was, a huge big body on that line, and now you lose your center. It's not shaping up to be
not just
good
a
for
big
that
body,
line.
a huge big body.
Yes. Panthers Packers Panthers. What am I saying? Packers Quay Walker. Packers linebacker Quay Walker suffered a shoulder injury during the game, and then his backup Chris Barnes sustained a high ankle sprain and was carted off the field. So not a very good day to be in that position. Ravens left tackle Juwan James tore his Achilles in the game versus the Jets. This makes the second straight season where he has torn his Achilles. Ravens cornerback.
That's wild.
Yeah, it happened to him last season too. Ravens cornerback Kyle Fuller tore his ACL and will be out the rest of the season. Titans defensive end Deshaun Hand will have surgery on his torn quad, and that will mean he is out for the season. And Bears offensive lineman Alex Leatherwood was placed on non-football illness list and will be out for 4 weeks with what is expected to be mono. And some good news. Chargers cornerback J.C. Jackson participated in practice for the first time this season. He was limited in practice, but it is the first time he was able to practice. And Ravens running back who did not play this week, J.K. Dobbins, was a full participant in practice today.
Yeah, I remember when he was clowning people on Twitter because he was going to be active week 1. Well, J.K. Dobbins. Yeah. Let's read those receipts real quick. Also, we did not mention because we were gone last week. Harold Landry, pass rusher for the Titans, tore his ACL, and he's also out for the season. So, not great for the Titans defense.
Yeah, lots of injuries. I was actually talking with someone today. Before I get into that real quick, I just want to say, so we gave this stipulation last year. Wednesday is a day where you can get an idea of what's going on, but a lot of practices won't fully resume until tomorrow with full pads and full strength. So take today, there's a lot of news coming out in the next few days surrounding practices to get a better idea about your players, especially if you're in fantasy. So this is just an update for right now. And a lot of these that haven't had recent news except for post game will change by the time, the weekend gets closer. But I was talking with someone and we were talking about that it was actually a pretty decent amount of injuries. And surprisingly, there weren't as many preseason injuries as there were last year. And that was kind of thought to be a little bit surrounding COVID. Same thing happened in the COVID years. But do you think that maybe it's a possibility that a lot of these, big players aren't playing preseason games, so their bodies aren't fully ready for this and they end up getting injured?
No.
Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I personally don't, but that's because from everything that I've read and everything that I've heard from different NFL people who know more than I do, the idea of joint practices has become really big. And it's become a really a substitution for preseason games in terms of the way they work the players and the way it gets their bodies ready. I think injuries just happen. I think honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think our bodies are going to be upset that they're playing 3 less games of football. That's the big thing for me. Yeah. You're skipping preseason. There's 3 chances that are now less likely for you to have a season-ending injury. Because the things you're not seeing are a ton of hamstring or whatever. Yeah. There's some of them, but those are the things more so that come from being ill prepared to play the game of football. Torn ACLs, torn Achilles, that it just happens.
Interesting. I have a very similar idea about it, but I was just interested to hear what you had to say. Speaking of, they were considering in this coming off season talking about if joint practices should be allowed. Interesting.
Oh, I love joint
practices. I do too.
Coaches love them.
Yeah, but there was concern about after everything that happened with Aaron Donald taking 2 helmets and smashing someone on the head.
Well, how about you just suspend him? Jesus.
I don't think we ever talked about that.
No, I don't think we did either. But there was a really great picture of it.
Yeah. But really quickly before we get into news, because this is something that I really love to talk about. You were mentioning, training in preseason. So remember those Guardian caps that some players had to wear on top of their helmets? They looked pretty silly, but they were like the little like helmet caps that went on top with little like sponge looking things on top. So Ian Rappaport sent out a tweet today that said NFL exec Jeff Miller on a conference call says the early data for the Guardian caps worn during camp was promising. Through 2 weeks of preseason games, concussions were cut in half from 23 to 11. For those positions affected, mandated to wear caps, which was pretty good news.
Yeah, both of the Eagles' top 2 left tackles got concussions while wearing those.
Oh, interesting.
So I personally find that research to be BS, but that is because it affected me in a negative way directly. So also, this is the meme of Aaron Donald. So if you are watching,
that's a Game of Thrones picture. And
yes, I'm aware. And it doesn't matter. I understand it. He's dual wielding Bengals helmets, and he has the rest of the team coming at. Like, it's not. I don't have to watch Game of Thrones to understand that.
I know, but I wish you did.
All right.
Either way, that's our
other
injuries.
things to do.
Okay, so you're gonna have a big segment after this one, so I'm just gonna breeze through the news, even though I've been talking for a while. Jump in at anything you'd like, especially this one. Lamar Jackson had set his deadline. We weren't here last week, so we didn't get to talk about it. Lamar Jackson set his deadline for, I believe, last Friday, right?
It was the Friday right before week 1, or
so
week 1 technically.
Yeah, so he basically gave a deadline to the Ravens front office and management and said, I need a deal by now, or I'm not talking about it for the rest of the season. His demands were not met, so he does not have a contract with the Ravens currently.
I respect what he's doing, but I also think it's very stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very stupid.
Especially, like, you could get hurt.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a mobile quarterback.
Like, it's very stupid. Get someone to represent you, dude. Like, I get it. I respect what you're going for and all that. Get someone to represent you. Someone who has your best interests. Like, you're not doing yourself a favor by representing yourself. Maybe some lower level players can. You, as one of the star NFL quarterbacks in the league, are
MVP.
Probably not doing yourself any favors by representing yourself. Like, I don't like it, and he's not going to change his ways. Like, clearly he's very locked in. So
and like you said, like, I totally respect what he's doing. And you and I have had long conversations on and off air about players advocating for themselves and how the game has changed, that players can, stand up for themselves more and make a lot more personal decisions rather than just being used as like pieces on a chess game.
Yeah.
But again, this is your livelihood, and you're also like a mobile quarterback on a team that has a lot to prove. And there's a chance you could get hurt or have a bad season, and then you're kind of are only hurting yourself.
Yep.
So even if you just got somebody else like to work with, then maybe that would help. I don't know. But either way, he didn't come to an agreement with the Ravens. The average viewership for all week 1 games this week was 18.5 million per the NFL. That's the best mark since 2016 and a 3% increase over last season. The Broncos-Seahawks Monday Night Football game was the most watched Monday Night Football game since 2009 and the most watched Week 1 Monday Night Football game since 2006. There were 19.85 million viewers across all platforms. Joe Flacco will remain the Jets' starter for Week 2 while Zach Wilson is still rehabbing his injury. Such sad news, the Colts cut kicker Rodrigo Blankenship, and he ended up clearing waivers and is now a free agent. I hope Goggles go somewhere.
He had a great rookie season. Then he got injured. And then he had a rough week 1 where he missed the game winner.
Yeah,
and I feel bad. I feel very bad for him.
Yeah. You wanted to talk about this. Browns have a new midfield logo, and that is Brownie the Elf.
Yeah, I hate the Browns. I've hated the Browns for a long time. It has nothing to... Okay, well, I'm not going to say it has nothing. It originally had nothing to do with the Deshaun Watson thing, because this is like dating 15 years back into my adolescence. Their team name is the Browns. Yep, I don't care that they're named after Paul Brown. I think that's stupid. Then their logo is an orange helmet. That's even dumber. First of all, it's a helmet.
Everybody has.
What are we like? And then it's orange. You're the Browns. Whatever. Why is Brownie the Elf? I don't like. I get it from like a it's fun perspective. Like if I'm just looking at it in like I kind of respect it. I kind of respect the whole like, all right, screw it. I don't give a shit anymore. Like we're leaning in to the memes and whatever. I guess the fans wanted Brownie the Elf back. I think they're just trying to distract from the fact that they brought a sexual predator on to be their quarterback. So like I guess marketing is doing the best they can.
Yeah.
But of all the things that they could fix, it's Brownie
Yeah.
the Elf. So
Yeah.
good job, guys.
I saw a tweet that was like, if you were like an outsider, right? You didn't live in the United States, you didn't follow football, and all of a sudden you saw that video that the Browns tweeted, you'd be so confused. Like there's just a giant elf painted on the field for a team named after a color in which their fans do nothing but bark.
Yeah, because of the dog pound. Yeah.
Dog pound.
And
so
like
that was a pretty good tweet.
again, I think I love alternate logos. I think they're
Mhm.
great. The Sixers have an alternate logo of Benjamin Franklin dribbling a basketball, and I think it's incredible. And I wish it was their main logo,
Mhm.
but it's not for a reason. It's an
Yeah.
alternate logo. Why the hell is Brownie the Elf on the like? Again, I respect it. There is a part of me, the 10-year-old me that's playing Madden,
Mhm.
that just created a team and made a really weird logo as the center of our field. Like I respect that, but also like I'm not running a multi-million-dollar franchise when I am $1 billion, I guess.
Yeah.
Playing Madden. So yeah,
It
anyway.
really feels like they just put a whole bunch of things in like a bowl and like a whole bunch of slips of paper, and it's like our name is gonna be a color, and our secondary mascot is gonna be an elf, and we're gonna
fair,
have the
that's
dog
exactly
pound.
That's exactly how it feels like they've been running
Right?
the franchise
Exactly.
since 1999. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Also, you talked about marketing. I didn't put this on the list, but did you see that what the Washington Commanders were selling?
Oh God, no. What?
They were selling mugs with the Washington Commanders W with
the state of
outline
Washington.
of
Yes.
Washington State. They don't play in Washington State. They play in Washington, D.C. And they started selling logos with Washington State on it. Big fail there. And nobody decided to, and it's like a big day,
I want
right?
one.
It's the first, right? They're going to be like super exclusive now.
What a shitty franchise.
Yeah.
They're so bad at everything.
Yeah. And like it's a big day. It's your first day with your new name, like your first public game with your new name, and you're selling wrong merchandise.
Your third name in like what, 4 years?
Seriously. Either way, we're going to talk about, we have some players. AFC players of the week were on offense, quarterback Patrick Mahomes from the Chiefs. On defense, safety Minka Fitzpatrick from Pittsburgh. And on special teams, kicker Cade York from Cleveland. For the NFC players of the week, on offense, it was running back Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants. On defense, it was linebacker Uchenna Nwosu from Seattle. And on special teams, it was cornerback Zach McPherson.
Nope, it's Zach. I knew.
Is it Zach? Okay.
Zach
I
love that you pronounced Uchenna Nwosu correctly, and then I saw the stutter, and it was like,
yep.
Is it Zach?
Is it Zach?
No, it's Zach McPherson.
Zach. Okay, so Zach McPherson from the Philadelphia Eagles.
I have to say, just real quick, hilarious that he won. All he did was catch he fair caught an onside kick. I love it. Good for him. He deserves it, I guess. But it just shows you what the competition was this week, apparently.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah.
Anyway, Duncan, why don't you tell us about this new segment that you are going to lead us into? That's going to be basically your segment. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, so we're gonna see how this goes. But I don't know. I was just driving today and I thought about it and I was like, oh, this could be kind of fun. Mainly because I just want to see myself squirm. But you are going to set a stopwatch or something on your phone.
Yep.
And every 15 seconds, you are going to tell me to move on to the next game. And I'm going to have 15 seconds to basically give a quick summary of every game that happened this past week. I can kind of choose to focus on whatever I want. I don't have to mention who won or who lost. I probably might. I don't know. But yeah, we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to see how all over the place I'm going to be. But yeah, it sounds fun. So
I think your ADHD is going to like this one.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Well, I think that's probably what it was, is I think my mind was just going everywhere. And I was like, I really wish someone did this for me, because I feel like that's how I would take it in.
Yeah.
But I decided I was going to do it for me. So,
and we've also agreed it's a good way to talk about all the games without having to do a show where we have to sit down and analyze every game, because we don't want to do that. That's not what our show is. We talk about some games here and there, really good games. But you get to have just a real quick recap if you didn't get to watch all the games.
Exactly.
Perfect. So
I can choose to move on quicker.
Yes.
If I yes. Okay.
Yep. All right. So I'll count you down from 3 and you're going to go down. I just put them in ESPN order. whatever order
I have
you'd
the
like.
same. I have the same order.
Okay, perfect.
So
all right, so ready? 3, 2, 1, start.
all right, so Von Miller might win Defensive Player of the Year. He had 2 sacks. The Bills had 7 sacks against the Rams. It was awesome. Josh Allen is in the running for MVP. Cam Akers might be dead. I don't think he's ever going to get back to what we thought he was, which sucks. But Darrell Henderson is actually the running back 1 on that team. Also, Matthew Stafford needs to get his elbow looked at. The Patriots versus the Dolphins. The Patriots offense is completely broken because Joe Judge and Matt Patricia should not be running an offense. On the other side, the Dolphins might be really, really, really good. Maybe their defense is great. Their offense was pretty solid. Tyreek Hill was a great addition, but their run game looked horrendous. And I think that's the opposite of what people expected. The Saints versus the Falcons. The Saints looked horrible for 3 quarters. Good Lord, how do you do that? How do you go down that far to the Falcons? But then the Falcons did what they do best, and they blew it, and they lost in the 4th quarter. Arthur Smith is a terrible head coach, and he has no balls, unlike a head coach I'll talk about later. Niners versus the Bears. There was a shit ton of rain. Justin Fields and Trey Lance were both okay, sort of, but also sort of unimpressive, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in an actual game. But wow, okay, the Bears won a game. I really didn't expect that to happen, let alone that early. I'm early. Okay, Steelers versus the Bengals. I don't know how long the Mitch Trubisky era will last for the Steelers, but I don't really think it matters because, God, I just don't think their offense is going to be good. Chase Claypool led their team in rushing. Najee Harris was incredibly inefficient behind a garbage offensive line. Minka should also be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, and Joe Burrow threw 4 interceptions. Eagles versus the Lions. The Eagles had 4 different players score rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts had 90 yards. Miles Sanders had 96. The defense was putrid. Jonathan Gannon, you're officially on the hot seat in my mind. DeAndre Swift was awesome. A.J. Brown is a stud, and that might have been the best trade of the entire offseason was what they gave up. The Ravens versus the Jets. Devin Duvernay came out of nowhere to have a surprisingly great performance from a team that didn't really think we had any wide receivers. The rushing offense was terrible, even Lamar Jackson included. Joe Flacco was surprisingly not horrible. And Jaguars versus the Commanders. Jags haven't won a road game since 2019. Carson Wentz flashed, but also looked terrible, and that defines everything he's done after 2017. Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson might want to be one of the underrated wide receiver duos in the league. Trevor Lawrence struggled, and James Robinson is alive, and it's nice to see that. Browns versus the Panthers. Baker did not get his revenge, but they did make it very close to bringing it all the way back. Robbie Anderson came back in a big way, scoring on, I believe it was a 75-yard bomb. CMC made it out of that game healthy. Nick Chubb is still a beast, and Jacoby Brisket sucks. The Colts versus the Texans. I'm starting to think that maybe there's something just wrong with the Colts and not the quarterbacks they bring in. Alec Pierce had a really bad touchdown drop from Matt Ryan, who I thought actually looked okay considering. The Texans were straight up playing for a tie, and it's cowardly. It was 4th and 3 in overtime. Go for it. Giants versus the Titans. This is the coach that actually has balls. You coach a terrible team, so why not go for 2 and go for the win? Brian Dable, thank you. You did that. The Titans are very bad. They're kind of bad. Also, Saquon might be back, and I might have to apologize about everything I said about him. Packers versus the Vikings. The Vikings could be a sleeper for, I think, the best team in the NFC. Justin Jefferson might legitimately break every receiving record this season, or he at least has the opportunity to. Rodgers missed Adams a lot more than Adams missed him, and Alan Lazard is apparently very needed for this offense. That looked putrid. The Chiefs versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals defense was a literal turnstile, having basically no ability to stop anyone on that offense. Mahomes did not miss Tyreek that much. Kelsey, doesn't matter what age he is. He's still just going to keep being Travis Kelsey. CEH might be alive with 2 receiving touchdowns. And apparently Greg Dortch is the best wide receiver in the Cardinals. Raiders versus the Chargers. Adams, like I said, did not miss Rodgers. Mike Williams disappeared completely. He vanished from the face of this earth. But they need him next week because Keenan Allen is injured. The Chargers played a really good game, and Herbert just looked really good. So I think that's going to be a really good team. The Bucs versus the Cowboys. The Cowboys might be the worst team in football. I legitimately think that if I was making power rankings right now, they might be 32. Dak Prescott looked horrible before the injury. CeeDee Lamb looked bad. And that offensive line was the equivalent of me. 5 of me standing out there. It was terrible. Also, Julio Jones might be back. And finally, Broncos versus Seahawks. I will talk more about this later, but Nathaniel Hackett should be fired right now as head coach of the Broncos. The Seahawks might be better than we thought. I might have to apologize to them too. Good for Geno. I'm proud of him. And also, Russell Wilson is just a really weird dude, and I didn't know what to think about his return to Seattle.
Done. Wow, that was fun. You're out of breath. You have to be out of breath. It's like you're practicing to be like an auctioneer, giving all the.
That's how it felt. Yeah.
Right. I loved that. Loved that. Ooh, and it gave a pretty good recap. Right. It gave a pretty good recap of a lot.
I thought so. Yeah, there were
love
definitely
it.
some I had more to say than others, but I think
Yeah.
that's, to be expected. So,
Yeah. And now we have 30 minutes to go into some of the other things. I do love that comment. ADHD is a superpower, and it
it
is your
is.
superpower.
Thank you. Jackamus Prime is my dude.
I
He is
know.
in our Discord, which you can
Mhm.
join, where you can talk to us if you join the Undroppables Patreon, which is at patreon.com/theundroppables, I think. Or you can go online to our website, theundroppables.com. Yeah. So also, we're going to do a quick ad read now that we're at the halfway point. And I just wanted to talk to you real quick about one of our sponsors this season at the Undroppables, and that is Manscaped. Support for this show is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 6 million men, this one included, worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code UND at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that 6 million people plus me means 12 million plus 2 balls that have been used by Manscaped, that Manscaped has been used on, something like that. Anyway, it's great. My balls feel awesome. It comes with this deodorant that I put on my balls now, and it makes them smell good. So get Manscaped. Thank you for sponsoring us, and thank you for making my balls smell better.
Perfect. Do you think Brian Dabble has to get like a special extra big one for his nice big ones?
Yeah. No, yeah. He might use a whole can of that deodorant
Right?
after a week like this. Poor Ash. What do you mean? She gets to hear me talk about my balls.
That's just the dynamic here. I'm used to it.
Yeah. Well, that makes me sound really creepy and perverted. I don't normally talk about my balls unless it's to get money.
We talk about balls here, but it's mostly footballs.
Clever.
Anyway, so we were talking about some coaches. I know you talked about Brian Dable a little bit. We also want to talk about Nate Hackett. So we're going to talk about best and worst coaching of the week. Why do you want to start on the good notes, or do you want to start on the bad note?
I want to start on the bad note because I'm already
so let's
there.
do it. I want you to go there. Do you want me to read those things I have written down first, and then you can talk?
Yeah, just read the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Nate Hackett in his post-game press conference, they went for what was the actual distance? Because the mark to get 64. To was 46. Okay. So they went for a 64-yard field goal when they have the biggest blockbuster trade and brought Russell Wilson there, and their offense is the star of the show. They decided to go for a 64-yard field goal with McManus, and they did not get it, and they lost the game. Nate Hackett in his post-game press conference said, quote, "Looking back at it, we definitely should have gone for it. Just one of those things you look back at and say, of course we should go for it. We missed the field goal. But in that situation, we had a plan. We knew that 46 was the mark," Hackett said. And in a separate quote, he said, quote, "I was happy that he got that one kick that didn't count out of the way," Hackett said. "I thought he had plenty of distance on that one. I just thought we were going to be able to make that. I have confidence in him, and if we have to put him in that situation again, I think he'll be able to make it." And on that note,
okay, Nathaniel Hackett, you're a moron. You are a stupid moron.
I want to point out that he has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
7, right?
From 6, and plus tonight is 7. Plus that night was 7. So I'm reading, Warren Sharp had tweeted out the stats. So he has, in his entire career history on 62 plus yard field goals, has missed every year. Oh, it's tonight, including tonight. So he missed from 62, 62, 63, 64, 64, and 70 yards from 2016 to 2022. And they decided to have him go for it in this game with Russell Wilson. And I also do want to point out that they let 39 seconds run off the clock and then called a timeout and then went for the kick. So it's not like they had no time.
Yeah. So Nathaniel Hackett, you're a moron. The NFL record of 64 yards was set by Matt Prater in 2013. Since then, Justin Tucker has made a 66, meaning that he said, our goal, our plan was for our kicker to attempt the second longest made field goal in NFL history at 64 yards. That was our plan. That is a horrible plan. Yeah. That is a terrible plan. That's like me saying that if I get a steal in a basketball game and I'm running down the court and I see that no one's around me, my plan is to go for a dunk. I'm not going to get a dunk. I'm 6 foot, white, and I can't jump. Like, it wasn't meant to be. Dude.
And I did point out in our pre-show when we were just going over our show sheet, it's not that Hackett set that goal. McManus sent that goal. And I'm not using that as an excuse. I just want to point that out that McManus said, if you can get me here, I can make that kick.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, a kicker should be able to say that kind of thing because that's in desperation type of situation. It's a head coach's job to know, do I really want to settle for that? And so if you're not aware of the full like scenario, like they let 40 seconds run off the clock. They were just standing there. And then they took a timeout before they attempted that kick. And it was 3rd and 5, and then it was just like a very bad play call. And they got back to the line of scrimmage, 4th and 5-ish. You're paying Russell Wilson $250 million so you can attempt a 64-yard field goal. And it's not like a field goal is to win and you're going to tie otherwise. Like, you're not playing for overtime. You are playing to not lose the game now. Like, you need that first down. You're paying Russell Wilson how much freaking money? And I would fire him. I would fire him right now. He does not deserve to be a head coach and handle that situation that poorly. Like, that is just... I was watching the Manning cast. I was telling you beforehand. Peyton Manning, Shannon Sharp, and Eli Manning were all there, losing their minds because it was just some of the dumbest coaching I have ever seen. Yeah. And I've seen some dumb coaching. But good Lord, that might have been the single worst in-game coaching decision blunder that I've ever seen. It's inexcusable to settle for a 64-yard field goal. He's never made one. It's so ridiculous. Only 17 60-plus yard field goals in NFL history have been made. Like, I don't care if you think your guy can make one. Like Jake Elliott he had a 61-yard field goal against the Giants in 2017. That was because it was tied, and they needed that to not go. If they missed, they go to overtime. Okay, whatever. Yeah, you try it because there's no harm in trying that kind of kick. He made it. Great. If he doesn't make it, oh, well, you go to overtime. That's better than a Hail Mary. You don't need a Hail Mary. You had almost a minute on the clock. Oh my God. And then he was using his timeouts when the Broncos were kneeling down. That was just annoying. Like, at that point, you're just a kid in Madden that refuses to.
Exactly. And it looks like poor sportsmanship. What it looks like. It looks like you're bitter and mad and you just want to be a pain.
Oh my God. And not to mention the offense as a whole, which he's in charge of, just came out and looked terrible.
That's what I was going to talk about. I wanted to know in game how you felt about his coaching.
So I didn't think it was good to begin with. Like that's the other thing is I don't mean to say that I'm just picking this out of like a nitpick in a game that was otherwise well coached. Like, you didn't beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks were starting Geno Smith. They have very little talent on their team as a whole outside of the wide receiver position. Like, that is a game that you are supposed to win. Nathaniel Hackett, you were not brought in here to slowly rebuild this team. You were brought in thinking you can win a Super Bowl this year because they got you the quarterback. They paid big money in free agency. They've got weapons. You've got defensive players. Like, you've got a roster that is built to compete right now. I don't care that it's your first game. I truly don't care. And yeah, not all of it's on Nathaniel Hackett. Like, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon both fumbled near the goal line. Like, it felt like they wanted to lose the game. But it's just, you can't, there's no excuse for losing that game. Not with Russell Wilson as your quarterback, and not when you handle the end of the game that poorly. So, man, that was one of the worst coaching jobs I think I've ever seen. And it's just, there's no talking way out of it. There's no reasoning that makes it make sense, because you should never assume that your best option in that scenario is to kick a 64-yard field goal. It's just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And part of it is too, the Broncos red zone offense has always looked bad. I actually have an article pulled up from what website is this? SB Nation, but the Broncos section of it. And they were talking about, in the last 18 regular season games, the Broncos have turned over the ball 8 times inside the opponent's 10. There were 7 teams that have 0 turnovers, whatever. So the red zone offense for the Broncos, even with a different offense, didn't work. But this one didn't look any better. It didn't look cohesive in the red zone. And I understand running back fumbles are a thing, but both of them did it. And I didn't like the play calling in the end zone either. It didn't look super formulated. I don't think this team looked like they were playing up to the strengths of their players. It kind of looked like they were just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck, which I understand for week 1. But again, this was a team who was supposed to come out of the gates swinging and go and have an easy ride to the Super Bowl. And that's not what this team looked like.
Yeah, they looked for a team that had as much hype as they did. Like they looked about as bad as I can remember a team with that much hype looking. So it looked like a head coach first coaching in his first NFL game, and sometimes that is what it is. But man, he looked just outmatched completely.
Yeah, he did. But we can talk about another head coach who was playing for his coaching his first head coaching game of the ever. Thank you. I couldn't figure that out. But that was Brian Daboll from the New York Giants. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, and we can talk about our thoughts?
I mean, to begin with, just kind of like what I mentioned during my 15-second frenzy or whatever. He just, it reminds me a lot of the team that they were playing, the Titans. Their head coach, who always escapes me. What is their head coach's name for the Titans? I can literally,
Vrabel.
Vrabel, thank you. Mike Vrabel. I can never remember his name. I always want to call him Arthur Smith. But anyway, Mike Vrabel. It reminds me a lot of what he did, I believe, when he was a rookie head coach, which was he made a lot of headlines by going for 2 and going for a win in a couple games that season. He just coached very aggressively. Like, I don't always necessarily agree with that. Like, if you're a good team and you think that you can beat that other team in overtime, like, fine, whatever. Like, but in Brian Daboll's situation, the Giants are a bad team with not a lot of talent. He knows that. Their GM literally admitted it last week. I think when you have that kind of momentum, and you have nothing to lose. Brian Daboll has nothing to lose. If he loses this game, no one cares. No one expected them to be in the game. But he goes for 2 after scoring a touchdown that, if you kick the extra point, ties the game, sends it to overtime, ideally. But he went for 2. He said, screw it. I have nothing to lose. He went for it. He got it. Great. I don't think that he would necessarily get trashed if that decision went the other way, because, again, no expectations. Yeah, it came down to a missed field goal by the Titans. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, they were going to get another opportunity to kick that field goal regardless. So now, instead of going to overtime and playing longer with a more experienced team, you're done. So regardless of how the rest of the game went, I love that attitude. And again, not every situation needs that, but the situation that Brian Daboll is in, I love it. And that's what's like, Joe Judge probably would have taken a knee on the extra point. Like, he would have said, no, we'll take the loss. We didn't deserve the win. Now everyone's going to go run a lap. Like, I hate Joe Judge. So whatever.
Yeah. And I think too, I'm trying to figure out how I want to say it. So you're right. I think even if this man had 2 wins this year, that his coaching job would not be on the line.
Oh yeah.
The Giants didn't have, we're not expecting it to be the Broncos and come out of the gate with new staff and some new players and win a Super Bowl. That's not the expectation. That obviously is the goal, but not at all what the Giants were expecting this year. And to see a coach actually go out there and use his players' strengths properly. He allowed Daniel Jones to sling it a little bit, not too much that it put him in jeopardy. And one of the biggest things for me as a Giants fan is I've been looking at that game from a perspective of not just like the play calling and the book and the players. It's more so the way that the entire vibe around it felt. And it felt like an entirely new organization. These players seemed to be much happier on the sidelines. And even when they were down, you could see there was this one moment where Saquon, ran up to Daboll and put his helmet to Daboll's head and was like, yelling, not in a bad way, like, we did it, we're doing it type of way. And Daboll gives him this huge hug and they're like, messing around with each other. That's not something Joe Judge ever did. That's not something I can remember the Giants doing in a long time. It's been a really long time since I've seen Giants players looking happy on the sidelines. And just the whole culture seems to have shifted a little bit. even Dable in the, post-game interviews, in the locker room with the players, that's not something we've seen. So just having the guts to make those risky calls that, yeah, if you don't get it, you don't get it. It's not going to kill you, which makes it a little bit easier to make those decisions. But he went for it, and he had some good play calls throughout the entirety of the rest of the game that were ballsy, and he went for them anyway and completely adapted the way the team looked in the first half and the second half, because what they were doing in the first half was not working. So they completely adjusted their game plan in the second half and revamped it a little bit and figured it out, which is not something I can say for Joe Judge or the Giants as of late. So seeing this was really exciting, and I just think Dable as a whole package this week was one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, and so I will say that that type of optimism does not carry over for me to like Daniel Jones, for instance. Like, I don't think and this isn't, I'm just kind of continuing the conversation of the Giants, but like Daniel Jones, like he was basically exactly what we've seen from him, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception, got sacked 5 times. He also had a fumble. That dude just needs to learn how to hold on to the football. It's kind of ridiculous at this point. I will say the one thing that is very puzzling, and I'm very much looking forward to week 2 to see if it changes, is Kadarius Toney.
Yes.
The dude played 7 snaps. He had no targets, but he had 2 carries, and he had a long of 19 yards.
I also pretty sure he had did he have another attempt to throw the ball? I think that happened at one point. Did it?
Not that I'm seeing.
Okay. I can't remember if it did.
He had, I believe he had 2 touches, both rushes, no targets on 7 snaps. It's just bizarre because he looked good in both of them. Like, I don't know what the story is there. I don't think we'll know until we know. Dable hasn't really said anything, and what he has said is just kind of vague enough that
we have confidence in him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they said,
I don't know. It's puzzling, but
yeah, he had a post-game press conference just in the locker room, which I'm so happy to have back. It's so fun that we can have media back in the locker room. I love that.
Oh, are they back now?
Yeah, at least partially.
I was like in a concert on Sunday, so I was streaming the Eagles on my phone, and then I didn't actually watch any football until like Sunday night. So
yeah, it's mostly back. There were reports of the media in the Bengals locker room and talking about how Joe Burrow, did his little press conference and sat down on his chair and just sat there in his gear for a while. So it's all reports from the media in the locker room. So we have that back. But they did talk to Kadarius Toney, and they were like, "Are you frustrated?" He's like, "Frustrated with a win? You guys are crazy." So it's a very vague, interesting scenario, but I don't know. Again, he's a super versatile player. He should be used more on offense. I don't know if it's just not what Dable wants in his scheme right now. I don't know. Or if it's just a specific game plan, but I don't see how you don't use him, and I'm really intrigued as to why.
I will say, and obviously you said this, he didn't say this, but if his reasoning is, I don't want to use this hyper-talented dude in my scheme, first of all,
that's what I'm saying.
That's Chip Kelly vibes, and that's bad, because Chip Kelly said scheme over everything, screw you Deshaun Jackson, screw you LaShawn McCoy, and then got himself fired. If that is like Dable, I will quickly change my mind on him if his reasoning is purely because he doesn't think Kadarius Toney fits a scheme. Like if it's any other reason, fine, whatever. Like if he has good reason, sure. But Kadarius Toney easily looked better with the ball in his hands than almost anyone else on that offense. He's one of very few players on this team. Well, yeah, he's the one that doesn't. He's very easily one of the only talented players they have on this roster. Like I don't see how you're not trying to run the entire offense through Saquon and like Kadarius.
Yeah. So I would say Sterling Shepard looked good for coming off of an injury and coming back from a little bit faster than expected. But yeah, absolutely. Saquon may be back. I don't want to jinx it. You never know.
Yeah, I mean he looked great. I can't argue with it. I mean
he did. So we have like 10 more minutes. Do you want to talk about some surprises of the week?
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you go first?
Why do you do that? Why do you ask something and you make?
Oh, I can go first. I was talking. That was like my big segment, so I don't know if you wanted to. Okay, so I can go first. So one of the biggest surprises for me was Carson Wentz. I have his stat pulled up on a different page. Let me get to it. He looked really good, which was very alarming. I wasn't sure if I was watching the right game when he was on my TV. But he had 41 pass attempts, 313 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But he was second in passing touchdowns this week. He looked smart in the pocket. He was doing everything he possibly could. I don't know. It was just overall, he looked like he was playing good football and spreading his targets out, using the field wisely. He just looked really good, which was a big surprise to me. And I don't know if that's going to be something that keeps up or not, but it was very interesting for week 1.
So I will say this. So, like I said, I didn't watch a ton of football. I was in a charity concert on Sunday, so nobody can be
Were
mad
you
at me.
playing or were you
I did. I
watching?
played trumpet.
Okay.
Yeah, in the concert. That being said, I did go back and I watched some of the Carson Wentz stuff because I was very curious. It's exactly what I said during my 15-second frenzy was that, you know, like it describes everything he's done post 2017 Wentz, which is looked really good and looked like he had all the talent in the world with the ceiling that is basically up there with anyone in the NFL. And then that floor of throwing those 2 picks and you still almost lost to the Jaguars. And honestly, the Jaguars should have won that game. Like, it's going to sound like I'm an Eagles fan or whatever, but like, so the final score is 28-22. Like, how many wide open passes did Trevor Lawrence just kind of miss? Like, you don't have to go very, very far down the if this one play went differently bag to make this thing a Jaguars win. Like, this isn't, you know, if these 9 plays were all different. This is like 2 or 3 plays, and that's. The Jaguars have not won an away game since 2019.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's very bad. Their defense is miserable. It is just not good. Like, Carson, you should be throwing 4 touchdowns on this team. And with the talent you have at wide receiver, like, I think Jahan Dotson. I keep going to say Deshaun Watson because of the way
it has like the same cadence. Yeah.
Don't like it. I think he was drafted too early. But I still really like his talent. Terry McLaurin, very good wide receiver. Curtis Samuel is apparently back. They have a talent. Antonio Gibson, even though Tanya Hardinged his way into being the starting running back, like they have a talented offense. Carson Wentz should be putting up 4 touchdowns. That is exactly what he should be doing. He should not be throwing 2 interceptions to the Jaguars. And he shouldn't be barely winning this game. Like, I don't know. It basically just told me that Carson Wentz is exactly who he has been since 2017. I want the best for Wentz, I think, most of the time. I really do, but I don't know. I think the Commanders are not going to be an actual competitive team, but I think they're just going to be very pesky and very annoying to play. And I think they're going to every now and then just get a win where you're just kind of like, really? Really?
Like, you can do that?
Yeah, no other team is ever going to feel good about losing to them.
Yeah. I just think for me, like, I was like, I'm not saying I don't think Carson Wentz is going to be good throughout the season. I just think for me, it was more like I, in my head, expected him to play absolutely horrible and at some point have Taylor Heineke back. So. Oh,
see, I never expected that. Only because we've seen the flashes. We keep seeing the flashes.
I know.
He's gonna have games where it's that bad. But
that's what I'm saying. I expected to come out of the gate and it be one of those games, you know, that's what I expected. So this for me was a big surprise. And the other one was just, I could talk about it real briefly, was the Bengals offensive line is so much worse than I could have imagined and so much worse than it was supposed to be. And it is absolutely horrible. How many throws and picks and pick sixes did Joe Burrow have again?
I think he threw 4 picks.
4. The first one was a pick six, wasn't it?
Yeah, pick six. Yeah.
First score was a defensive score. It was horrible.
There was a really funny stat about Mitch Trubisky. He's like the only quarterback that's thrown over 200 attempts since like some year, the year he was drafted, that hasn't thrown a pick six. It's really dumb, but I thought it was funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And pick that's my other just
very little to do with the quarterbacks, but
yeah,
big one for me, and I mentioned this in the in my frenzy, but I don't want to overreact, but I think the Vikings could be really, really good. Like I think I said on our last pod that like
both of us did.
Yeah, we liked them a little bit more than I think we were expecting to.
Yeah,
for me it was all about the head coaching change. Like I already knew they had talent, but thank God they got rid of another. Why can I not remember head coaches that are named Michael? His name is Michael, but the head coach that was there for like 20 years or whatever. He just wasn't very good. I didn't like him. I didn't like his philosophy. And now they brought over Kevin O'Connell from the Rams.
Mike Zimmer.
Thank you. I think the Vikings might be really good. And the Eagles play them this week on Monday
Mhm.
Night Football, which is scary.
It's a great game.
Because we gave up 35 points to the Lions. But this one's at the link, so I'm not as worried about it. But Kirk Cousins had a really solid game, 2 touchdowns, 118 quarterback rating. Justin Jefferson went 9 for 184 and 2, average 20 yards per reception. Jalen Reagor did not have any touches, but I do believe that he was their punt returner. He returned 1 punt for 7 yards. Game-changing stuff from Jalen Reagor, the guy they were very excited about getting for punt returns. But yeah, they have a really talented team, and I don't know. I think they have a very solid team, and also like I don't know. Maybe this is just me saying the Packers suck. I don't know. I think this is a game that I'm excited to kind of see both of these teams moving forward because I think the result shocked me. I'm not shocked that the Vikings won necessarily. I'm more just shocked that the way it happened.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Like the Packers never stood a chance is what it felt like. Like they just never stood a chance. Also shout out AJ Dillon, who might be in the midst of a complete breakout season with 5 receptions and 10 carries compared to Aaron Jones's 5 carries and 3 receptions, which so
and anyway. I think those receptions for him will stay up. I know part of it has to do with the fact that there was like no one else to throw to when Lazard will come back, but I still think those receptions are going to stay up. And I think for me about the Vikings, you and I said it last week that looking at it from just, it's the Vikings, they're not going to do that well. And then we sat down and actually played that little game where we picked games and I had them up there with the Packers, so that was intriguing for me. So being able to actually see those thoughts come to fruition and play really good football was great. And I think the Vikings are going to give everybody a run for their money.
Yeah, and I will say this was a really good point that Jack Miss made in the comments. Christian Watson, rookie, dropping a wide open touchdown, set a really bad tone early for Green Bay.
Yeah.
I do agree with that completely. And honestly, if he caught that, maybe it's a completely different game. I mean, obviously brings the score closer. So
yeah, I think Green Bay is one of those teams. I know you're going to say it may happen for a lot of players and teams, but I feel like Green Bay is one of those teams where if it gets off to a bad start, it just never stops type of thing. Like they can come back from it, but they seem like the team to get in their heads about it.
Well, yeah, because I think all the weird stuff with Rodgers, I think it's a lot easier to ignore that stuff when you're winning. And if they're losing, I agree. I think the weird stuff is just going to multiply. But finally, speaking of weird stuff and quarterbacks, you want to do this fun little game before we finish out today.
Yeah, so let me grab the person who grabbed it so I can give them their credit. But somebody tweeted out this week, it's at the DGen, DEGEN, like Degenerate Weekly on Twitter, that was saying quarterbacks I would not get a beer with. So I wanted to do 3 quarterbacks you would love to get a beer with and 3 quarterbacks you would not want to get a beer with.
Okay, so
you want to start with would, and then we'll talk about won't.
A tab I have open just randomly plays these notes, and it just
I was like, was I that loud? Did I mess up my mic?
No, it's just but it's not consistent, so I can't mute it. It just randomly it's like boop, and it's like, why are you doing that? I'm sorry, what?
So do you want to start with ones you would or ones you wouldn't want to have?
Ones I wouldn't. Okay. So the first 2, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Those are very easy.
Yes, those are both of mine.
They both scare me in 2 completely different ways. And third, Kirk Cousins. I was, reading that tweet. I feel like no one was talking about him. I just kind of think I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to hang out with him. He's not weird like the other 2. I just kind of think he might be a shit dude.
He's also a big anti-vax guy, which we don't have to talk about in here, but you get my point.
Yep.
Just seems like he's going to be another one that is a secret. Aaron Rodgers seems like a big conspiracy guy, but he seems like one who would keep it under the table a little bit and then just slip in these things.
Yeah, Kirk just kind of seems like he could I don't know. I don't know.
I agree. Those were my 3 too. Those ones we knew we shared because as I was typing him, you sent him, and because the original tweet had Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Matt Ryan. Which I don't agree
with that. I think it's stupid. What do you have against Matt Ryan? Apparently, he's literally he's half the reason his nickname is Matty Ice is because of Natty Ices in college. I don't know. It seems like a great guy. Everything I've heard about him is great. I like Matt Ryan.
And then so we share the same won'ts, but what about for 3 you would, the top 3 that you would like to get a beer with?
So this one's actually, I think this one's a lot harder. I think Matt Stafford's on there, which is kind of surprising to me, but I just feel like he's a really cool guy. I really like, I I feel like I would really want to hang out with Matt Stafford. I know that
Yeah.
he can chug beers because we've seen it on live television.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've always kind of liked Matt Stafford. So I'm definitely going to say him. I'm just like quickly looking through and look. I mean, like it's kind of hard for me to not say Jalen Hurts because I don't know. That might actually be really weird. I feel like he wouldn't have the I don't think it would be the most enjoyable conversation, to be honest. Like I don't think he doesn't have a ton of personality that shows a lot of the time. That's fine. It's fine for a quarterback. But so I'm just not gonna put him on there but he's an Eagle. It's fine. Josh Allen is on there for sure.
It's fine.
And
That's your three. That's three.
Yeah, but I'm not counting. I'm not counting.
Oh, okay.
Jalen Hurts because that's too easy.
Mm.
I'm gonna go with Baker Mayfield. I don't care. Screw it. Oh, actually, wait. Gardner Minshew. I choose him.
Oh.
I forgot. I was only thinking of starting quarterback. He's also an Eagle,
Yeah.
but I choose him.
Yeah, I chose 3 starting quarterbacks. Allen is starting quarterbacks. Number 1 for me is immediately Josh Allen. I love him and all of his like non-football related content, like him and his movie quotes. Oh, I love it.
I do like.
Number 2 for me is Jameis Winston. I would love to get a beer with that man. I think I would do nothing but hysterically laugh.
I don't know about that. I kind of disagree with you.
Really? Why?
I don't think he's funny on purpose. So I don't think in a one-on-one setting he would be funny.
See, but I think that's why I think it would be funny because he's not funny on purpose.
But in a one-on-one setting,
I would find it so funny.
I think he would be kind of boring in a one-on-one setting.
I don't know. He's still up there for me, and Justin Herbert because he just seems like a cool
Justin Herbert's
dude.
great one.
Just seems like a cool dude. He's also another one who loves movie quotes and loves like media and movies and all these things. So those are my 3. I would love to get a beer with those 3.
I'm just looking at the list again, just out of curiosity. Great podcasting. Honestly, I'll get a beer with Tom Brady.
I would. I feel like you can't pass that up.
I mean, obviously, yeah. Like,
if
you can get a beer with actually, if we're being honest, I'd want it with Peyton Manning. But Tom Brady, I just feel like I want to have a conversation with him because I think he lands squarely in the middle of like is probably a really cool guy, but also super weird. And I don't know what he's ordering. I don't know what's going on in his head. I just I want to see him. I just want to have like a 10-minute conversation.
I completely agree with that.
I want to see if I can
get in the middle.
I want to see if I can get any information out of what is going on in his head.
And I feel like that one beer will either skyrocket him to the top of the list or shoot him down to the bottom of the list.
Like he can't be like he can't. He has to be somewhat fun to be around because Gronk loves him. Like, I don't know.
And he seems normal, but there's just like this little thing. I don't know. Anyway, Duncan, we have passed our mark for the day. Why don't you go ahead and tell us where we can find you and wrap up your side of the show?
You can find me. No, actually, Jackamus, I don't think he drinks, but this is in my imaginary dream.
Only when he wins Super Bowls.
Exactly. That is true. He was very drunk. You can find me on Twitter at mpduncan75. You can find me here on the Undroppables Playbook Wednesday nights at 8:00 Eastern, live on Twitter, Facebook. No, not Facebook. Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. And you can find it tomorrow on wherever you stream your things. I'm losing the train of thought. You can find me on Under the Wire, which is hosted on the FF Chat Discord, Fantasy Football Chat Discord. Under the Wire is a start-sit show for your fantasy teams. I will probably be tweeting that out on Sunday mornings. It normally goes from like 11 or 11:30 to 1 o'clock Eastern Standard. Helps you with all of your start-sit decisions for fantasy. We talk about all the upcoming games for that day. So I'm on there sometimes with a co-host, sometimes not. That's where we have the Undroppables Patreon, all that stuff.
Yeah, perfect. And you can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's at the beginning of Ashley. You can find me again here every Wednesday night. Big one is Patreon. Hi, Rob. Thank you. It's someone from home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are they from your cheerleading days?
Yes, that is from the cheerleading
Wait,
days.
really?
That is, yeah, those three initials are the gym.
I thought I remembered Pack when I was going through
Yeah.
all of your cheerleading tweets.
Yeah, that's the one. But yeah, you can Twitter's the best place to find me, and also the Patreon, because you have unlimited access. This week I literally messaged and was like, hey, can you find me a play to win me money on Prize Picks? He sent me one and I made money on it at the end of the game. Shout out Brian. So it was so good. Patreon is the place to be, so you can have access to all of our exclusive Discord channels. Anyway, we will see you next week after another, I'm assuming, exciting week of football. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and think about that question. Which 3 quarterbacks would you and wouldn't get a beer with?
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good day.